We're going to talk about how to find the surface area of a rectangular prism. And so if you look on the formula sheet, you see that this is the formula of the given. Surface area equals 2LW. L means length, W means width. So 2 times length times width plus 2LH, which is 2 times length. H means the height. So 2 times length times the height plus 2WH. So 2 times the width times the height. So that's the formula for a rectangular prism. What is a rectangular prism? It's basically a box. So anytime you see something that looks like a box, that is a rectangular prism. It can also be called a right prism, but a right prism can be more than just a box. So a rectangular prism, think of it as a box. So hopefully you can see this. That is a rectangular prism. When we talk about surface area, what does that mean? Well, it means exactly what it sounds. So we're going to find the area. So you can see here we have rectangles. So you need to know what the area of a rectangle is. And so if you don't know how to calculate the area of a rectangle, you need to watch the video posted on that. So we have rectangles on each side of this box, prism. And so you can see that there's 4 sides around, and then there's a side on the bottom, and then there's a side on the top. So there's a top, bottom, and 4 sides around. When you're talking about the surface area, you want to find the area of all of the sides. So we're going to find, essentially, you're going to find the area of each side, top, bottom, 4 sides around, and add them all together. That is the total surface area. So it's the area of the surface of the whole box. So that's what surface area means. So how does this formula come into play? So we're going to call this thing the length down here. This is the width, and this is the height. So you can see that the bottom and the top, for example, how do you find the area of that rectangle? Well, the area of a rectangle is length times width, so it's going to be length times width. We have 2 of them. They're exactly the same. In a rectangular prism, the top and the bottom are exactly the same dimensions. So we have the length of the width of the bottom, so the area of the bottom is length times width. The area of the top is the same thing, length times width. So we have 2 of them. We have 2 length times width. That's why you see 2 times length times width, because that is going to account for the surface area both on the top and on the bottom. So you can break these out and say length times width plus length times width, but that's the same as saying 2 times length times width. So that's covering the bottom area and the area of the top of the box. Here we have length times height. So now we're talking about the front face and the back face. That is going to be length times height. So if you can imagine me pulling off this front face here, you can see that here's the length, and then the measurement of this is height. So the area of this rectangle is length times height. So we have the front face, and then we have the back face. So there's 2 of them. So we have length times height times 2. So up to this point, we have 2 times length times width. That's going to give us the area, the total area of the bottom and the top, plus 2 times the length times the height. So that's going to be the front face and the back face. So the only faces we have left are the faces on the side. And so if you can imagine this rectangle, it's width times height. Width times height. That's the area of this side of the box. It's also the area of the other side of the box, since they are exactly the same in a rectangular prism. So we have width times height times 2, because we're going to take this area plus this area, which is 2 times width times height. So if we're given a relatively simple problem, and I'll just use this. So let's say they're telling us that the length is 11 feet, the width is, we'll say, 9 feet, and the height is 4 feet. what is the surface area? So all we have to do is really, we don't necessarily even need to think. If they're going to lay something out this straightforward where they're giving us each of the dimensions, we just use the formula. So we just say 2, the length is 11, the width is 9, plus 2, the length is 11, the height is 4, plus 2, because I'm just following this formula, 2 times the length times the width, plus 2 times the length times the height, plus 2 times the width, which is 9, times the height, which is 4. So you just plug this into your calculator. Make sure you know the order of operations, so you have to do the multiplications first. So 2 times 11 times 9 is 198. 2 times 11 times 4 is 88. 2 times 9 times 4 is 72. If you add all those together on your calculator, you're going to get 358 feet square. Remember, anytime you do an area, your units are always in square units. So in a straightforward problem like this, where they lay out the dimensions, you just plug the numbers into the formula and you get the surface area. But don't forget about what you're actually doing is that you're taking the area of each of the sides, top, bottom, and the 4 sides around, adding them together. Let's do another problem. And here, they may get a little bit tricky and just tell you, let's say they tell you a cube has a side of 7 inches. What is the surface area? So remember, a cube is a square, essentially, a 3-dimensional square. So all of the sides have the same dimensions in a cube. So we can still use the same formula. It's just that the length is going to be 7, the width is going to be 7, and the height is going to be 7. They're going to be all the same dimensions, but we can still use this same formula. There is a shortcut, but let's just walk through the formula. So again, we do 2 times length, which is 7, times width, which is 7, plus 2 times length, which is 7, plus height, which is 7, plus 2 times width, which is 7, times height, which is 7. So if you do all of that, so 2 times 7 times 7 is 98, 98, 98. So your answer is going to be 294 inches squared. So remember, a cube, all of the sides are the same, so you can still use this formula. You just have to know that a cube, all the sides are the same. So you can probably see a little bit quicker way to do this too, where as soon as you have one side, the area of one side, right? So all we need is the area of one side, and there's 6 sides. There's a top, bottom, and 4 around. So you can really do 6 times 7 times 7 is going to give you the same answer, because you can find just the area of one side, which is 7 times 7, multiply that by 6, and that's going to give you the cube. But if you don't want to do the shortcut, you still just stick with the formula. You know, try and maybe draw it out, or at least think about it, and just put the formula numbers in it. But if you can think of it easier, all we're doing is taking the area of one side and multiplying it by 6. Because in surface area, we're just adding up the area of each of the sides, the top, bottom, and the 4 sides around. So let's do a question that has, where you're going to have to think, or at least know the concept of what surface area is. So let's say we have a bench to paint, but we don't need to paint the bottom of it because that's just going to be on the ground. So, well, and we're going to say a bench, we'll say a box bench. So it has sides all around, but we don't need to paint the bottom. So again, we have a rectangular prism we're going to say that we're going to paint. So how much paint do we need? What's the area of this, given that we don't have to paint the bottom face? And we'll say that this is 6 feet, this is 2 feet, and this is 3 feet. So what's the surface area of what we have to paint? So again, surface area is just, here we need to think about what we're doing, because it's finding the area of each of the sides and adding them up. So if we go here, and it says 2 times length times width. So here's the length, here's the width. But we don't need both the top and the bottom because we don't need to paint the bottom. So we don't need 2 of them, we just need 1 of them. So it would be length times width. That's going to cover the top part of this bench. Then we do need 2 of the length times the height because we need the front and the back. And we're going to paint both of the sides. So 2 times width times height. So here, again, we've modified the formula because you need to actually think about what you're doing if you don't need the surface area of the whole thing. We didn't need this bottom, the bottom rectangle, because we're not painting the bottom of that. So we just, this is representing the top and the bottom. So we just need 1 of them. We don't need 2. And so if you multiply all this out on your calculator, you're going to get 60 square feet.